Welcome to Book Club no Kiseki. I am Sam Allman.
I'm David Bernard Houck.
And I'm Matt Jorgensen.
And the segment of Falcom's Kiseki series we'll be playing today is chapter, what is this?
5.
Chapter 5 of Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky, second chapter. But before we get into all of that, how you doing?
Me?
Yeah, either one of you. That was a really bad Joey impression, but whatever. How are you guys?
It's been a long time because scheduling podcasts is hard.
Yeah.
But lots has happened in my life. I started playing Final Fantasy XI, and I kind of think anytime I tell someone I'm on over the phone that I'm playing Final Fantasy XI, I feel like they probably think I did a typo of Final Fantasy 14. But no, it is Final Fantasy XI, and I love it. It's great. You just sort of go around and vibe and fight goblins. It's good.
Sounds good. I've always wanted to play it because it seemed bonkers. Because like Final Fantasy 14 is good, but it's good because WoW was good, and Final Fantasy 11 is like 4 years before WoW. So I've always wanted to know like what MMOs were like before they all became the exact same game.
Yeah. I like it. It's I decided to play it because I found out that apparently at some point, and this might not even be accurate, but apparently Square Enix has only committed to keeping the game online through its 20th anniversary, and this year is its 19th anniversary.
Oh shit.
So I was like, well, shit, if I want to play all the Final Fantasies, I better play this one.
Yeah.
So I'm playing it, and I'm liking it a lot.
Is its story like good and Final Fantasy like, or is it just vibing in a Final Fantasy world?
I haven't gotten too far in the main plot line, but like the writing's pretty good, I guess.
That's good.
You know, so far the plot is mostly just there's bad guys and we got to stop the bad guys.
Yeah.
And there's been like little hints of there are characters and maybe those characters have a thing going on, but I don't know what that thing is yet.
Yeah. Do you feel the game could have an offline version like Dragon Quest X? Do you think it would work in that regards, or is this going to be gone forever next year?
Well, they were actually apparently working on a remake of sorts for, I believe it was going to be for mobile platforms, but it got canceled. I think they could probably do an offline version. They already sort of have a structure in place for that because you can solo just about everything now because there's a system that allows you to summon AI party members. So you could do that instead of playing with other people in an offline version.
Yeah. Interesting. It's the one that I know the absolute least about as far as Final Fantasies go. Like I don't even know like a single like tiniest bit of lore. Like even I don't even remember what the expansion was called. Like you could literally tell me anything about it and it would be new information for me. So I should maybe play it too.
That's pretty much how I was. I actually thought it took place in the same setting as Final Fantasy XIV, but it doesn't. They just both happen to have, let's see, they both have big, muscular, gray people, very tall elves, regular humans, cat people, and children. The 5 genders.
Yes. Yeah, it's very weird that they're the exact same like races and not in the same space, where no other Final Fantasies do that. Like they're all either if they all match, they're in the same place, a la Ivalice, or they are completely different, or they're just generic humans. But
I seem to recall hearing an anecdote that when they sunsetted the new content sunsetted new content for Final Fantasy XI, but not ending online play, they had like a wall, like an in-game wall that they put every player name who was playing at that time, like at the moment they flipped that switch, which I thought was kind of neat.
that's cool.
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah. Anything else happened in the last 4 weeks, Bernard?
My primary care doctor thinks I probably have ADHD because I think I probably have ADHD, and I filled out a questionnaire thing, and he was like, "Yeah, you probably have it. I can't prescribe you any of the fancy stuff, and you have to see a psychiatrist for that." And I was like, "Oh, dang. How am I going to focus long enough to find a psychiatrist that takes my weird insurance?"
Yeah.
But, hey, there's that.
Yeah.
That explains why I can't focus on shit.
Yeah, it's great. And now every single person that has host next to their name in our Discord has had a person who knows their shit say, "I think you probably have ADHD." So it's amazing that this podcast has been on the air for 4 years. I think this is the only thing that any of us have been able to focus on. What about you, Matt? What have you been up to in the last year?
Well, I don't remember if the last time we recorded I for sure had the job or not.
I don't remember either.
But I have a new job. I work at the Stop of Games, and in that 4 weeks I got hired, trained, and then promoted.
Nice.
That sure was something. It not a bad thing. It was just a lot of new but not challenging information all at once. Let's see what happened. I had a birthday. That was yesterday.
Happy birthday.
And moved a piano. Thank you. That was the extent of my birthday.
Nice.
Moving pianos surprisingly hard.
Yes, it is. They are very, very heavy. In the world of Sam Allman, Digimon Ghost game came out, and it's fantastic. It is the new season. It is not a remake or a reboot or a reimagining, which is awesome, because the past 3 seasons, 2 of them have been a remake or continuation of the original Digimon Adventure. So it's great to have new stuff. And the other one of the past 3 was non-standard Digimon Fair. So instead of having a bunch of kids that all have their own partner Digimon, you had one main character with one partner Digimon, and he gathered Digimon friends, but they weren't his partner per se. But this one is you got 3 people, they have their partners, and everything's cool, but it's also horror themed. So it's spoopy, and really, really good. I haven't watched episode 2 yet because when I was talking to Summer about it yesterday, as I was anxiously awaiting for episode 2 to drop, she was like, "That sounds great. I should watch that with you." So now I want to wait on episode 2 and watch it with her probably tomorrow. It was going to be tonight after we recorded, but we're recording like 2 hours late. But yeah, that's really cool. And then, like I mentioned before we started recording, I redid my whole office, and it felt really claustrophobic prior to me doing it, and now that I've changed it, it feels luxuriously spacious again, which is awesome. And then I also started playing Halo 4 on my computer, because you can play Halo on computers now, and playing Halo with mouse and keyboard feels like cheating. Like, Halo is definitely designed to be played with a controller, and the fact that you now have instant access to pinpoint accuracy, it's real easy to just walk into a room and kill all the things and then feel like a badass, which I do. But I think that's everything I've done in the last couple of weeks. It's been a long time since we recorded, so I have no idea if anything else important happened or not. But yeah, let's listen to some music from Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky second chapter, and then we will talk about the plot this week. So this week, we don't actually have, like, Matt wrote the notes, but we don't actually have his notes because he's locked out of his Google Drive. So we're just gonna like talk about what happened and wing it.
Luckily, it's not like a ton of shit happened this week. Only about 1 million different really huge things happened.
Yeah.
So.
No.
Hopefully we'll remember them all. All right. Matt, do you still want to take a point?
I actually think in this instance I'll defer to you, because I don't want my first attempt to wing it be a very important week like this one.
Okay. Cool. I don't remember anything that happened, so I will wing it and pretend it's great. And I'll probably will trim this little intro part out so people will think we're great. Anywho, so the chapter starts up, and hold on.
Well, first we have the chapter,
the little pre-chapter. Yeah, there's a little scene after the end of chapter before the beginning of chapter thing. And in that scene, Luciola climbs Esmela's tower, and she's talking about how it's like important shit. And then the rest of Organization 13 show up, and in their little airship thing to pick them up, and they are talking about their the next part of their plan fairly vaguely, and they mention that they're going to hijack a creature of legend, but they don't go into what that means. Meanwhile, we see the professor and Lawrence in Nibble Valley in the foggy place, and they're like, oh, I think it's going to be right here in this cave, and then you see a big ass fucking dragon like in the mist talking to him, and dragon's like, oh, like, who the fuck woke me up? And they're like, we did, and we have swords, and we're going to swords you and magic on you so that we can steal you and be better than you. And then the chapter starts.
And then, so at that point, we just basically do any side quests and then go to the landing port, and then we have our cutscene with Professor Russell and Cassius, right?
Yes. Yeah, that is the next important thing that happens.
Okay. So did any of us do any side quests here?
I did not. Just like with Final Fantasy we recorded last night, I was rushing to finish this on the day that we were originally supposed to record it, and then that got pushed back like 3 weeks. So I could have had time to go back and do some side quests, but at the time I was rushing, so I did not actually do any. The Let's Play sure fucking did, though. I'm like four screens in trying to find it. Here it is. So we after we get on the airship, we see Professor Russell and Cassius in Professor Russell's lab, and Professor Russell has gotten word from the party telling them everything that's happening, and they say that the way that the Gospels and everything are working don't make sense if the Gospels have all the power. They kind of only work if they're a conduit that links back to something. So the Gospels are running Moonlight, and the gaming PC is somewhere else. So all of the stuff that they're doing is it's got to be somewhere. And Cassius then asks the professor to see if he can develop something to stop the Gospels from working, because there's something in the way that they shut down all of the ordnance around them that seems fishy, and it seems like that's the weak point, and Professor Russell might be able to find a way to stop that. And if they stop that, it will stop all of the magic-y shit that they can do. And Professor Russell is like, oh, of course, that's the same thing that you asked for the same thing back when I invented airships to win us the war. So I always figured you would ask me this again, et cetera, et cetera. And then we get to walk around the airship for the first of 2 times this chapter and talk to all of our friends. I don't remember any of them being super important.
They're going to Bose, and Bose is right near Ravenny Village, and Ravenny Village is where Agate is from. So So there's lots of talk of going to Ravenny Village, seeing where Agate lived, and meeting Agate's sister, Misha, who he's mentioned before. He's mentioned he always goes back to visit her every year or so.
Yeah.
But he's being weird about it.
Yeah. And when you talk to Shara, she does fill in some of the blanks on what it was like to grow up in the circus and then be abandoned on Cassius's doorstep, but might not be important, might be crucially important later. We'll have to see how that is. But yeah, you go around, you talk to everybody, and eventually you do another cool cool thing is the conversation with Zane or Zen or whatever the localization is. He talks about how certain people reach what he calls what was it? It was total mastery of they called it unity of purpose, which is basically when you get good enough at one weapon, every other weapon kind of just clicks because you can, instead of having to learn, for example, Cassius, instead of having to learn how to use the bow staff, he just could take what he was really good at swords with and be like, oh, this is a long, blunt sword, and I can figure it out and go from there. And he alludes to other people that have unity of purpose, and he explicitly says that Lawrence doesn't have unity of purpose. He's just a really good fighter. He's more like a really sharp blade that the professor can just point at what he wants to cut, and therefore he's not as good as Cassius and is now fallible, and we could potentially take him down one day, according to him, which is pretty cool. So then we land in Bose and go and check in at the guild, and and we talk in with Lugrin, and we're like, so what's going on? And he's like, really the only thing out of the ordinary here are there's some big ass monsters, so I need you to go kill these 3 monsters. And I'm like, okay, that seems easy enough. As we're about to leave, the mayor and Leela show up, and we have a big reunion with them. I think that's really the only important like setup of a thing, and then we just go kill 3 monsters.
Well, Agate and the mayor are awkward around each other.
Yeah. That does become important later. She like goes to say something. He's like, hey, you promised you wouldn't talk about that. She goes, oh yeah, sorry. And leaves it at that.
So, yeah, yes.
Oh, I was just going to say, I do remember at this point in the notes writing mayor sister ?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be that too.
I thought they dated when they were kids.
That could be it too.
But
turns out it's neither of these things.
Not at all. But yeah, at this point, we just go and fight all the monsters, but the monsters act weird. They like get confused and will like attack each other or not attack, and they just be's weird.
Jesus, there's a lot of side quests right here. I didn't do any of them.
It is a Trails game.
Yeah. There's usually a ton, but like this chapter in particular had so many side quests.
I feel bad for not doing many side quests, but like, I don't know. I like the flow of the game. I want to keep going forward.
Yeah. Every week I'm like, oh, I should, on my second save that I did, go back, do some side quests, and like prep, see if there's any good ones to bring up at the end of the game. But I just want to know what happens next. So every time I pick it up, I don't want to go back and do something. I want to go see what's happening. But yeah, so we kill the things and they're all acting weird. So we go back to Lugrin and we're like, hey, we killed the things, but they were all acting weird. And he's like, oh, they seem like they're being disturbed by something, which happened once back in the day, and it was a big big bad thing when that happened, and we're like, oh well, what happened? And then there's a giant roar and a huge crashing sound. So we run outside, and there's a giant fucking dragon destroying the market in the middle of town. It's a beautiful dragon. Like, the graphics for the dragon are amazing, and
Good
I love
graphics.
it. Very good graphics. Every time this game does the Xenogears thing, where instead of being a sprite, it's a 3D model. It's real good. They are done so tastefully, and they drip them out to you very at such a good pace that, like, when it happens, it's great. I freaking love it. But everyone is like, I thought the ancient dragon was a myth, so seeing the ancient dragon here is weird. And then Lawrence is like, yeah, you would think it was weird, wouldn't you? And like, oh shit, it's Lawrence. He goes, no, that's not my name. I am Leonhardt the Blade Lord. And we're like, okay. He's like, call me that. And we're like, no.
How many names does this guy have?
A lot. So he had two last game. I don't even remember what the other one is. In this game, he has he continues to use those two, but also adds in Leonhardt and Lowe. And our party is like, we're not calling you the Blade Lord. We're going to call you Lowe, and that's what they do.
We're gonna call you fuck ass.
So the dragon like breathes fire at us, and we're like, oh, holy shit. And Lo jumps on the dragon's back and rides off into the sunset. And we're like, what the fuck? And Agate is like, I'm going to go after the lizard. You guys stay here and do whatever. I don't care. I'm going to go and fight it and be a tough guy. And Tita is like, that's stupid. And while we're about to run after him and tell him he's being stupid, but then some people run out from the market and they're like, you have to help us. Things are collapsed. People are trapped. And we're like, well, we're JRPG heroes. We have to go help them. And so we run around the market helping people, and under one of the pillars that has fallen is Leela, the mayor's maid. And so we go to help her up, and Zane is fucking insane, and he just picks the whole thing up by himself. And
Two people who can't move it at all, but he's like, hey, you two, stand back. I've got this by myself.
Yeah. It's great. If he wants to practice, he could like carry me over the threshold if he wanted to, or just as an idea.
Mm-hmm.
But so Leela is out cold. She has succumbed to her injuries and is like in a coma or something. And so we go back to the guild, and Logren says that the some of the army is coming here, so they're going to focus on the market. And we're like, we need to go find Agate. We're like, well, where would he be? And then Logren gets a phone call that Ravenu Village was just attacked by the dragon. And so we're like, oh, well, we gotta go help him. Agate would definitely be there. So we do that, and we head out to Ravenu, and the orchard has been completely burned to the ground. And we're like, oh shit. So we go to talk to the chief, and he's we're like, oh, what happened? And he's like, the dragon fucking torched everything, and after it torched everything, it flew north up towards the mine. Agate showed up, helped us put out the fire, but after the fire was out, he just ran away again. And Estelle's like, oh, did he go to check on his sister? And the chief is like, oh, so that's what Agate tells people. We're like, what the heck? He's like, don't worry, he's not with Misha, and he's not at his house. He probably went after the dragon. Or like, okay, cool. Let's go head towards the mine and see if we can find Agate. So we make it to the abandoned mine, and the door has been kicked open, and the chain has been cut. So we head through the mine back to the part where the airship had landed last game, and the dragon's there, and so is Lo. And Agate shows up to yell at him in anime, and they have a fight, and Lo is kind of kicking his ass and breaks his big ass sword while they're fighting.
It also injures him pretty bad.
Yeah, he gets got. And Lois,
yet another scene where the heroes should totally die, but don't for somewhat contrived reasons.
Yeah.
But then the party arrives.
Yeah. The party arrives, and they're like, hey, you, stop. And he's like, oh, well, I'm not going to. I'm gonna just fucking kill Agate. And Tita is like, oh no, you don't. And she jumps in front of him to like protect Agate. And Lo is like, okay, well, dragon, you fight them instead. And Tita stays in front of him. Is like, you can't. I won't let you hurt him. I'm gonna. Agate is always saving me, so I'm going to help him back. I'm going to protect him. He's always looking out for me, so I'm going to look out for him. And Lo is like, okay, well, I'm going to leave now. And then General Morgan shows up in an airship and starts shooting the dragon. And Lo is like, oh, cool. Now that they're here, we can begin the final experiment, and hops on the dragon to fly away. And he then does fly away. So we Morgan lands, and we are like, hey, why aren't we chasing him? And he's like, we were shooting him full of lead, and he didn't even get a scratch. So what are we supposed to do? And we're like, try
believe
hard.
In yourself.
Yeah, believe in yourself, try hard, try to win. And the general's like, courage and recklessness are different things. You're not being brave to just go and try and die. We need a plan. And Agate is fucked up. So he's like, oh, we need to he's like, General, you shut up. We're JRPG heroes. We're going to win. Bracers forever. And everyone's like, Agate, you're barely alive. And he's like, okay, well, tough. But the army has so much red tape and everything. They always show up so late, and they're such a heavy, big machine that they're not agile enough, and it took them so long to even get here. And this is after 2 towns had been razed. Like, what the fuck? and so Agate is like, why would I leave it to you this time? ... I'm going to protect ... Misha myself. And he collapses. And we're like, oh, is he okay? He's like, it seems like his wounds haven't reopened. He's just super exhausted. He needs to get some rest and be taken care of. So y'all stay here. We're going to go and try to figure out what we can do about the dragon. So we all head back to the chief's place, and Agate is upstairs resting, and Tita's checking on him, and then General Morgan, the chief, and us bracers are all talking downstairs, figuring out what's going on. And
Agate and Tita are actually in a different house, like next door, which is Agate's house.
Yeah.
I too, the way it's shot, I thought they were upstairs, and I got confused when they weren't.
Yeah,
that makes sense. So here, while we're talking, we figure out what happened 10 years ago, and the basically Ravenu village was getting destroyed, and Misha was caught in the thing, and it was the Elder feels it's his fault, Morgan thinks it's his fault, Agate thinks it's his fault and also their fault, so he hates them and hates himself, and
thinks it's Snow's fault.
Yeah, he thinks it's Snow's fault, thinks everyone he can blame, he does blame.
So there's an interesting thing here. You can actually interact with the memorial before you go to help Agate, which just slightly changed it. I remember writing that part was because the guide I was following directed you there, and then through forward to the story. So but it's not confirmed versus it's not confirmed.
Nice.
Just an interesting shift in the story. Anyway.
Yeah. So basically they're like, oh, so after we learn about Agate, Estella's like, so General, are you sure that the bracers can help you against the dragon? We're smaller, we can respond faster, we're dialed in with the civilian population, it's easier for us to get places. We would be a big help if you let us. Yeah, we are all named characters because everyone besides you that showed up here has the same sprite, so obviously they're not as important as we are.
You're not a group of soldiers, you're just one guy in 5 different suits.
Yeah. He's just 3 sprites together in a trench coat. But and so Estelle's like, we want to prove that bracers are important and end this little spat that we have going. So please let us help you. And he's like, okay, cool. We're gonna figure out what's going on, and we'll reach out to you if we need us. If we need you, no promises yet. And we're like, okay, so let's head back to Bose and see what's going on. We'll leave Agate and Tita here so Tita can watch over him and he can get his rest, and we'll get out of there. So we go to talk to Tita and tell her that we're leaving her, and on the nightstand next to Agate is a picture of him and Misha, and that's when the party puts it together that Agate never technically lied. He just said, I came back to visit her. He never said, you guys can meet a real life living person who is Misha. And they figure he probably was going to tell them eventually and just hadn't. So we tell them that we're going to head back to Bose, and Tita's like, okay, I'll stay here, but you guys go be careful. So then the game gives you one of its incredibly too few fast travel prompts, so we can skip all the way back to the guild without having to walk there, which is amazing.
Yes. I was sad that Agate and Tita had left my party because they are both, in my game at least, really strong. But it turns out they come back before you do any fighting.
Yeah.
Yep. I was in the same position. I was sitting there dreading it. I'm going to be grinding for so long. So long.
Tita in particular is strong in my game.
And her regular attack is an area of effect, which is just...
It's a small area, but it's still an area.
It's just so, like, versatile to have that just whenever you want. And it's good.
Mm-hmm.
And her S-Craft is a big-ass area of effect that does a shitload of damage.
And she has a healing craft.
Yeah. She's great.
She's an excellent balance of, like, in JRPGs, sometimes you get that character that has a lot of utility, but because there's lots of utility, they struggle at certain parts of the game. But with her design mechanically, they really they threaded the needle really well there.
And I feel like she does struggle early on because she is so fragile. But in my experience, at least, once the game's gone on, she's gotten less fragile. So there's been payoff in grinding her stats.
I never realized she was fragile. Maybe that's because I started on easy. And
maybe so. So we make it back to the guild house, and the mayor is there, and she finally tells us what happened 10 years ago. And things have been iffy between them because after Misha died, Agate blamed the mayor, was like, hey, we were a small ass village, the army wasn't even over there, like there was no one there to protect us, we just got our ass kicked, so why hast thou forsaken us? And
important reminder that a mayor in this country of a major city is more like a governor of a region.
Yeah, and also
so revenue was under his jurisdiction.
Yes, and prior to this current mayor, it was a hereditary position. So she was like going to be mayor anyways, but she ran for mayor, still got it, but it's important that she is an elected official now, and was not. Her father was not. But
she wasn't nepotized in there.
Yes.
It would be hilarious to like have a monarchy and then overthrow that monarchy and have an election for the next head of state, and you just elect the next person in the line of succession. That's just incredible.
It reminds me of, so I just finished Starsight, which is Brandon Sanderson's sci-fi trilogy instead of his fantasy books, but it's the second book of it, and they meet this race of aliens that have they've been like a super strict but everyone loves the king type monarchy, and so the king has had like dissolved the monarchy, but everybody loved him, and so everyone is equal. It is a pure democracy. There's like everything is done by committee, but the committee calls the king and asks him what he wants to do, and he always tells them it's like, you shouldn't listen to me. You shouldn't do what I say. Under advisement, I say blah blah blah. So they would be like, oh, he told us to not listen and told us that, so we'll do the opposite of it. And they keep only doing what he says. And I just think it was such a funny little thing. He was trying so hard to go clean, as it were, and still had all of the power, even though it was technically a democracy. And that's kind of what happened here.
I'm pretty sure that's also the plot of like at least a fourth of the record of various light novels and anime. My dad's bad. I'm gonna be well, let's just depose him with the power of magic and anime, and oh, look at me, I got elected the governor. Okay.
Yeah, it's from the seminal light novel work. My dad is a really bad king, but I'm going to become a president so that I can be better than him. But oh no, there's girls in this dungeon.
Dot text.
Yes. So, the mayor says that ever since then there's been bad blood between her and Agate, and so they've been really awkward together. And they're like, where is he? Is he okay? And like, yeah, he'll be up and at him in just a couple of days. And then the phone rings, and it's the general, and he says like, okay, we're going to the general basically says, come and meet us at the landing port at 10 a.m. They're going to they have a plan to try and capture the dragon tomorrow using airships, and the bracers are going to be on one of the airships as observers. And it's kind of unwritten that if the army fails, the bracers will be there to do some shit. And we're like, okay, cool. We will definitely do that. So overnight we get a memory from Agate while he's sleeping, and we see that Misha is going to make him a birthday present and wants to make him some sort of cool accessory that he can wear. And she's like, oh, it'll be perfect. I just like, thank you for being my big brother. I'm going to work on this really hard for you. Then Agate wakes up, and Tita is there, and they're and she's like, oh, I was like, don't move. You need to sleep. You're not healed yet. I'm trying to take care of you. And he's like, no, it's no big deal. And she's like, no, sit your ass down. I promise I won't let you out of bed until you get better. And he's like, Jesus, I'll just lay back down. No big deal. And Agate is like, well, we should. He's like, where's everybody? And she's like, oh, they went back to Bose. And Agate is like, well, we should go after them. And Tita's like, she's like, no, we can't. He's like, okay, so it's pretty late. I feel kind of good. You're obviously not going to let me get out of bed. We'll go to tomorrow morning. And she's like, okay, well, fine. And she's like, she starts to cry, and he's like, what's going on? And she's like, oh, I was so worried when you got hurt, and I'm glad that you're okay. And she's like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cry like that, but she's like, but I made you some soup. Let me go and get it. And Agate was like, wait, everything is exactly the way it was, but my house was destroyed 10 years ago and I haven't come back to here before. And they even like rebuilt the stuff on the inside, which is weird. How did the mayor know that, like, what the inside of his house looked like? But whatever.
I mean, it's a small community. They knew each other.
Yeah.
They probably aggressively photograph each other's living spaces. It's totally normal.
Yeah. So, and so he's talking about it, and Tita's like, "Oh, so that's when what happened to Misha happened." And he goes, "Oh, I guess all of you guys just were talking about my secret while I was out, but no big deal." And so and he says that when the bombs were falling, they actually had gotten out safe, but Misha realized she didn't have the stuff to make his birthday present, so she ran back inside to get it, and that's when the bomb fell on the house. And so he like blamed himself for not stopping her, and ever since then he's carried the like raw material that she was working on. It's just a pretty rock. It's not even anything important, but he's carried it with him ever since. And he's like, "Oh, I never intended for it to be a memento, but whenever it's the only thing I could never part with. Like ever since then, I have to have it on me all the time," which is pretty pathetic for a no good thug. And then Tita's like, is like, "No, not at all." And he's like, "I am pathetic. I'm angry at myself. I'm worthless. I'm a spineless son of a bitch. I couldn't do anything. I'm a half-baked man tracked by rage and self-deception. Just piling it on. I'm pathetic, and I'm like, I ain't shit." And he starts laughing at himself. And Tita's like, "I'm going to stop you right there. And I don't want to say that I understand how you feel, but I need to say something, and I'm sure that Misha would agree with me." And then she says, and I cried when this happened. She said, "Don't you dare make fun of my big brother. You don't know the first thing about what makes my brother such a good guy. I know my brother better than anyone else. I won't let anyone talk badly about my brother, even if it's himself." Which is, it's
so fucking good.
Like, the found family trope is the secret to my heartstrings. And every time someone calls someone that is not their brother or not their sister or not their dad or not their mom a familiar word, it hits me so good.
On top of it, this one is actually like really good.
Yeah.
So far as found family tropes go.
Yeah, it's because like their relationship has been like a slow burn ever since they met back in the first game, and like when she calls him brother here, it feels earned and not just out of nowhere, and it's good. So she tells Agate all the things that she really likes about him, and that he's a good guy, and he's like, "Oh, well, thanks. You helped me see like that I'm not such an idiot." So the scene basically ends with him saying that all I've been doing is plowing on, and maybe I need to like face my anger and sadness and see if I can actually find an answer as to why I've been holding on to this thing for so long. So back in Bose the next morning, people are already there to repair the market, and so we head out to the airfield to go and catch a dragon. All of the merchants have holed up in the hotel for now, so we can still buy all of our stuff, so we can fight people on the other side. If you run into the mayor, she says that Leela is still like completely fucked up, and she's trusting us to save the day because she has to be there for her friend and employee. So when we get there to get to the airfield to get on the ship, the party is trying to guess like, oh, like what airship is going to pick us up, and they're like, oh, it's probably just a regular army ship, and it's probably just like a sky tank, basically. But of course, that is foreshadowing for being the RSEAL. So we're gonna be on the big ass kick ass ship. And so when the ship lands, Niall and Dorothy are there. They're gonna try and cover everything, get pictures of the dragon, because who wouldn't want to get pictures of the dragon? And Julia shows up and is like, "I'm sorry for not telling you I was coming. I just wanted to surprise you all." And yeah, and so they say that Dorothy and Niall are there to like try and make it look like the army has everything in control, because people are freaking out that there's a ancient dragon just destroying the place. General Morgan shows up and he's like, remember, you guys are just observing this mission. We're going to execute the plan, and you guys are just going to be here for it, and that's it. And so we get all the way on board, and the ship takes off. And right as it takes off, Agate and Tita show up, and they're like, fuck, we missed it. We should have headed out earlier. But we'll just hang back. And Agate is like, yeah, since my sword is broken, I need to go buy a new one. But then the airfield receptionist guy shows up and is like, oh, hey, we just got a rush delivery on the flight last night that has your name on it, and it's from Professor Russell. And they're like, what? And it cuts.
Oh, baby, new sword.
Hell yeah. So on the RSEAL, he explains Operation Dragon Capture, which basically is going to be everyone's hanging out everywhere, and then if they find the dragon, they're going to try and corral it over the lake so that they can fill it full of horse tranquilizers until it goes down into the lake, so then they can try and capture it, because they don't want to kill it because they don't think they even can. And also, it's like a super endangered species. It's a mythical beast that has only been talked about in legend. They're not just going to kill it willy-nilly. But if they have to choose between it and the country, they're going to do that. But and they're like, Lo, who's like riding the dragon, has a gospel. It has the orbital shutdown phenomenon, so we're all going to stay far away from it and just shoot at it to do all the things until it goes down, so that we can capture it. And so they're like, okay, we have to wait till somebody sees it. So make yourself at home, which means go around the airship and talk to all of your friends. Which we do.
Olivia is like, man, if there was a dragon in Arabonia, we'd just kill it.
Yeah.
We'd just shoot it with a gun.
Yeah, he mentions how they have trains and tanks like 3 or 4 different times this week. He's like, yeah, we like to shoot shit. That's all we do is shoot shit. Zane is practicing his katas in his room, because that's what he does. Yeah, nobody really says anything important, I feel. Um,
I'm searching my memory.
yeah, I don't remember it being anything important.
Unfortunately, my memory is really bad in
I seem to recall
general.
most of it is just commentary on the
The
chapter.
dragon stuff, yeah.
Yeah, the dragons, and I think there's a couple of things relating to. Well, I guess that relates to dragon too, like
Yeah.
just seeing the dragon.
Yeah, so once you're done talking to everybody, Julia gets on the horn to say that the dragon has been seen in flight above the Malga mine, so we're all headed to the battle stations, and the bracers run up to the bridge. Then we get a slightly too long, but still super badass dogfight cinematic where the ships are shooting at the dragon. But
It's like
yeah,
it's my second favorite like JRPG dogfight
yeah.
ever.
My favorite JRPG dogfight is in Star Ocean 5 because it happens off screen like a Star Trek, and it's so good. Like it's one of my favorite scenes in JRPG history. Is just like a 30-minute Star Trek episode in the middle of fucking a JRPG. It's so good. But as all the fighters start to scramble, we see Cassius on the ground saying that it's crazy that the dragon has fallen into their hands. Maybe he needs to settle this himself, but if he does, it'll just be the same thing all over again. So so he says, please guide us who stand upon the Idios, guide those of us who stand on this chaotic earth. Back in the sky, all the attack ships have launched and are starting to corner the dragon over the lake, and they start shooting it full of tranquilizers, and it eventually does go down, and it lands in the lake. So the Arceal lands next to it in the water, and they everyone heads out, including the bracers, to look at the dragon, and it's freaking huge. It's like the whole size of the ship, and it's just floating there in the water. And they're like, oh, it's like definitely asleep. We shot it full of every tranquilizer ever. We're totally fine. And Dorothy, as she's taking pictures, she realizes that there's something on the dragon's forehead, and they get a closer look, and they're like, oh, it kind of looks like an eye, but it opens and it's a fucking gospel. So then it orbital shutdown phenomenons all of the ships that had just landed around it, so that it can get up and fly away super easy. And the once the Arceal is like able to start flying again, it starts going after it, but because of the shutdown phenomenon, its guided missiles can't get a lock, so all they can do is shoot at it with the bullets that still aren't working. So they're flying as fast as they can to try and keep up with it, but the dragon dips into the fog over Nebel Valley, and we're flying at full tilt trying to catch it, and they're like, hey, flying into a mountain range that's famous for having super low visibility is a very bad idea. We should stop that. And they're like, okay, bracers, this is what you're here for. You should run into the valley and see if you can find it. Agate and Tita show up, and Agate shows off his new sword, and I think I might be he shows off his new sword here that has a special orbment built into it that the professor created to destroy gospels. So he's like, all I got to do is get close and get a good couple whacks at the gospel, and we'll be fine. And we're like, the dragon went down on the part of the Nebel Valley that's inaccessible by foot. And Agate is like, I know an old dude that lives over there. He says that he's been out to that part before. We'll talk to him and see how he got there and see if we can figure it out.
We head there. We go see Agate's friend.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, help us. He says no. We say please. He says yes. And then he leads us to a crevice that he has delicately placed a board over so we can walk across.
Yeah. It's this huge, inaccessible, so therefore unexplored part of the country where a dragon has been able to hide out for thousands of years, and it was close enough that you could just put a board over it to go and do it, and no one thought to do that for thousands of years. So then we have a dungeon with the dragon's lair, and we make our way up it. So what's cool is the random mobs here are the 3 monsters that you fought earlier. So it ties it together that they were testing it on these ones and like right outside of the dragon's lair. So that's why they were getting out, which I thought was pretty cool.
Notice that. That's really cool.
Yeah. They still hit as hard as if they were mini bosses, and therefore it sucks a lot. But we do eventually make it into the dragon's lair where it's sleeping, and we're like, okay, well, since it's sleeping, Agate, sneak over to it and slice it in the fucking throat.
Or in the forehead.
In the forehead.
Where the gospel is.
Yes. I meant to say forehead, and then I started to cough and throat came out. So Agate does that. He sneaks over and he whacks it, and nothing happens. But the dragon wakes up, pissed off that it was just stabbed in the forehead. So the party fights it, and you have a big, chonkin', cool-ass boss fight. So
I love this boss fight.
Yeah, it was great.
So the dragon basically can only attack right in the middle because of how long and its neck is and stuff, but it can fly around and reposition and get away from you, and so you're having to like run to one side of the thing, get out of the way of his chompers, fight him a little bit, then he'll move. He has a lot of really strong attacks, and he's kicking your ass a lot. I found myself having to use a lot of the like Zephyr and things like that I don't ever really use that give you extra move, because Tita, her move is 3, I think. It's really fucking small. And so I was having to like boost her up so she could be useful at all. And it was just a shitload of fun. I beat it in my first go, but it was a long, fun, hard way to fight. After the end of the fight, the dragon is not even close to being hurt, and then like we're in a Persona 5 boss fight, Agate sees that there's a way to get up and around and do something else, so we distract it while he runs up onto this cliff and jumps up like a badass and smacks it in its forehead, which does this time break the gospel. So the dragon wakes up and is like, hey, my name is Ragnar. Sorry that I killed a lot of people, but I was being controlled, and that really, really sucks. And I'm sorry about that. So here's some giant ass, bigger than your head things of septium that you could sell for a shitload of money to be able to rebuild everything. And then there's a stupid little part that I kind of like, but it's also kind of stupid, where Agate is like, okay, cool, we'll carry these for you, but you have to hire us first. And so he sends another slightly smaller one to be our fee to carry the other rocks back to the mayor, which is weird. But of course, because this is the Trails in the Sky game, the dragon knows Cassius because everybody knows fucking Cassius. And he says that 20 years ago, Cassius challenged him, and he was saying he wanted to become a master swordsman, but he failed and did not beat the dragon. So Estelle asks Ragnar what since he was able to remember the things that happened to him, does he know anything about the experiment or the organization or anything? And the dragon is like, oh, Lo was not the one that put the gospel on me. It was a man in white called the Professor. And it says that the he said that the swordsman Lo actually was reining in the dragon to not destroy things as much. It's like, yeah, if I was basically a mindless killing machine, I would have killed everything, but Lo kept me from doing that. So I don't think he's as heartlessly evil as the Professor was. And it's like the Lo was just trying to see if the experiment worked. He wasn't trying to raise the whole country, which he probably could. He talks about the areola some more, and speaks about it in a riddle, so I don't think we actually learned anything about it. The dragon says that he has ancient oaths that prevent him from interfering, and so he can't protect us or help us against the organization. So he has to leave us here, and he's going to go find a new place where he can hide for another 1,000 years because this one's been destroyed by too many people. So
they put a board over that canyon, so he's got to go now.
They solved his riddle of the Sphinx.
So back on the Arseal, they're like, well, they've been in there for a long time and we haven't heard any word, what's going on. Then the dragon shows up and is like, hey guys, sorry about all the killing people. So the bracers will tell you everything else. I'm outie, peace, and flies away. And so Niall and Dorothy are like, so are we going to go after the dragon? And they're like, well, he just flew into outer space because that's a thing that dragons can do, I guess. And he's fucking gone, so we can't join him. So let's go talk to the bracers.
Space dragon.
Yes. Then we get a text box that pops up and says that everyone talked about everything and it was okay.
It took a long time, though.
Yes. It took a long time to explain everything, but eventually, 1 week later, Tita and Agate are going to visit Misha's grave, and Morgan is already there, also putting flowers on her grave, and they kind of are like more civil with each other than they were before, and they chit chat, they banter.
It's a really good scene where it's, Agate, Morgan is leaving flowers for Misha's grave, and Agate is saying, I knew there was somebody else doing this other than me. I just didn't think it was you. It's your pretty standard, still well written, end of burying the hatchet trope.
Yeah. At towards the end of it, the General Morgan realizes that the bracers are important to Liberal. The army can't do everything, so as long as they support each other, they both can be a two-pronged approach at protecting everything. And so they turn around to leave, and Lo is there, also here to leave flowers on Misha's grave. And so because he's there to do a nice thing, they just kind of all say truce and let him go and do it. So as he leaves the flowers, Morgan asks him, like, hey, so earlier you kept the dragon from killing everything, and now you're leaving prayers for the people who died. Like, what? You seem like a nice person. Why are you so evil? And he was like, the only reason I was stopping the dragon was to see if I could for the experiment. That's it. I am bound only to the society, nothing else. I'm just a blade for the society. I'm not a person. I'm a shitty person. Blah 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 blah. And so Agate is like, or he tells Agate, like, hey, we're probably going to fight again. Make sure that you're good. Otherwise, your sword won't be the only thing that's broken. And Agate is like, yeah, well, you too. I'm going to beat the shit out of you too. And
Lo also mentions Hamill in a way to sort of gotcha Morgan, and and Agate is like, hey, Hamill, that's that far off village that we used to hear about, but we don't hear about anymore. What's up with that? And Morgan's like, I don't know.
Yeah, he says, I'm not free to speak on this subject. It connects to matters of international security. And he then says, I can say, if my suspicions about that man are true, then Lo has stared into the pits of Gehenna with his own two eyes.
Is Gehenna like hell in this world or something?
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be.
Yeah, it's like, instead of angry hell, it's like sad hell.
Aw.
Yeah. But that then ends the chapter, and we save our game, and we'll play more later. So let's listen to some more music and then talk about any memorable moments that we might have with none of us having notes. Do y'all have any that we didn't bring up that y'all remember?
Well, just overall, I think this is the best chapter so far in The Legend of Heroes: Trails in the Sky second chapter.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed this chapter. All the stuff with Tita and Agate was wonderful. I love them. They are my children.
Yeah.
Can we stop to appreciate that Agate, like, over the course of this game, went from like, oh, we picked him as the character to come along because we were worried that no one else was going to pick him, to literally a JRPG protagonist from a different game.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
got the magic sword, what breaks the special rock.
Like, I feel like there was so much going on sort of subtly when we were traveling with him and not Shara that, I don't know, to me it sort of feels like it would be weird to go with Shara instead of Agate, but I haven't played the Shara version, so I don't know. But it sort of, Agate sort of feels canonical to me.
Yeah, but last chapter was the same way, but with Shara. We did Shara's whole backstory last chapter.
Yeah, but Agus was better because it was about him and Tita and everything.
Yes, it was better, but I'm saying, so it does fit to be either one, but I do think Agate's trajectory is better in this game, and I'm very surprised by that fact because he was kind of just the nothing. He was the Yamcha of the first game, and here he is being the Vegeta.
Also, can we stop to appreciate that when Agate was all laid up in bed and such, that they changed the color of his headband to white?
Yeah, his bandages.
They didn't change the headband sprite. They just changed the color.
Yeah,
That was silly.
In the evolution version, it's at least redrawn to be more obviously bandages, which is good. There also was a good CG of Agate and Tita this week. I only remembered it existed just now, so I do not have it handy. My Vita is somewhere. But the evolution versions CGs continue to be phenomenal. And even if you play it on the PC, you should go to the wiki and just look at all of them, make them your desktop backgrounds. There was something while I was reading the notes. I was like, oh, this is better for Mim Moms. I'm going to save it. And I don't remember what it was. I didn't like open it in a new tab or anything. I just...
There's a really cool, like, there's something we kind of glossed over that, going back through the LP real quick, I wanted to highlight. So the current mayor of Bose didn't actually know that Agate's sister was killed in the attack, just that Agate showed up to her house pissed. So it's like, in that moment, she finds out that that's what happened.
Okay.
Which doesn't change a whole lot, but it also, like, it explains why Agate and Maybelle's relationship is so adversarial for so long.
Yeah, because if she knew, like, it would be like, oh, that's so sad on her side, but she just knows he showed up and tried to punch her dad one time. As far as she knows, makes it make more sense on her end.
We had talked before about how cool the 2D sprite work in this game is and how cool the 2D fight scenes are, which they are. But man, we got some good 3D models doing stuff this time. I love the dragon. It's so cool.
It can't be like overstated how really cool this dragon is. It is probably the best low poly dragon in the history of low poly video games. It is exquisite.
And
And
it's like by far the largest 3D model, the largest and most complicated 3D model that we've seen so far. It feels like otherworldly because of that. It feels like something out of place in space and time in this game because of that. And I think that makes it work really well as a legendary figure.
Yeah.
we pause to appreciate that it's the exact same coloring as Blue Eyes White Dragon.
I hadn't even thought about that, but yes. Also, you're a little bit colorblind. It's more teal than Blue Eyes is, but it's fine. It has green in it that you can't see.
Oh, okay. Yep. Okay. But still, the fact that I was making Kaiba jokes and still really enjoying and still really appreciating it, should say, is that good if you're not playing along.
Yeah. Another thing I really liked about this chapter is we expected a couple of weeks ago that we would eventually get to this point, and it happened this chapter, but so much other happened this chapter that we like glossed over it. But every chapter there have been 3 things wrong, and we go and investigate the 3 things, and we learn things about the 3 things, and then we come together, find a new. Somehow there was a dungeon we didn't explore in the first game. Go do the dungeon, fight a boss. That happens in the first like quarter of this chapter. It's like, oh, there's 3 monsters. Go fight the monsters, and oh, here's a new section of the mine. And you're like, okay, cool. Chapter over. But then you don't get that boss fight, and then you get all this other crap happening, and they like flip the script on this chapter, and it was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But this chapter also is the last state of liberal that we've visited everywhere. So we still have what 4 or 5 chapters left, something like that. So
I think 4. I think there's 9 chapters total.
Yeah, so we have chapter 6, 7, 8, and finale left. So, oh my God. So I was looking on the LP and to see how many chapters there are. Not only is the Liberal News back, which I've only found 1 issue of, there are now 2 novels that I haven't even found a single hint about either of them. So that's fun. Of course, this game is bigger and more wordy than the last one.
We might need to do a pair of episodes for the end of game catch up.
We'll see. But
I just remembered one thing. One of the chests that I opened and looked back in just said, ah.
I always forget to check those. Ugh, I'm the worst.
So in the tower, whichever tower it is in this one, most of the chests in the towers continue to be monster chests. So I was holding down on the Vita, you hold down circle is yes and X is speed up. So I was just holding down circle and X at the same time to like get through the fights or whatnot. So as soon as the fight was over, I got the item and then I rechecked the chest, and the chest said something to the effect of, the last time you opened this, a monster jumped out. Why are you checking it again? And it was pretty great.
It's really good.
The tower had so many chests.
Yeah. And this was the easy to navigate tower. It wasn't one of the ones from the late game last game where like every fucking bridge is out, so you have to go all the way around. It's like it was trivial to look through and had upgrades for basically every party member in it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that'll do it. So next time we will be playing chapter 6, The Whereabouts of Bonds, since 3 of those 4 words are the name of Joshua's theme. I'm excited to see what happens next chapter. We'll see. And yeah, we'll do that next time. Thanks to everyone who supports us on the Ko-Fi. This series could not exist without you guys. So thank you. If you are in the after times and you're listening to this a month from now, and you're like, "Oh, this sounds great. I want to listen to more episodes." This specific time, I think there's only one in that's behind the paywall, as it were. But normally, there's two episodes that are available when this episode comes out. So if you're listening to this there, go and support us on our Ko-Fi at www.rpgbook.club, and you'll get access to all of the episodes that we've recorded so far. I think that's it. So for Book Club no Kiseki, I have been Sam Allman.
I'm David Bernard Hauk.
And Jorgensen.
Adios, amigos.